Hi, my name's Mark and welcome to the channel. Tonight I am in Tucson, Arizona, and this is the first type of video I'm filming where I'm going to sit and knit, and hopefully you can see I'm knitting, I'm sitting here with you, and so many of you comment and say that you like to crochet, knit, clean, craft, whatever you're doing along with my videos. So this is sort of a venture into a more real-time crafting and working video. So let's get into it. It's pretty windy out here tonight. It's been a beautiful day in Tucson, but blustery and super windy. We haven't had rain, but the winds have been crazy. So I imagine you can hear them. I've turned the interference down on the microphone, the noise cancellation sort of feature. So maybe it's canceling out a lot of the wind, or maybe you can hear it roaring. Maybe the wind is too much for the microphone to take. So I'll find out when I sit down to edit this video, and maybe this will get posted and maybe it won't. We'll see. So I'm working on a sweater right now. I'll bring it forward. I don't have my above head camera that I'm used to having. So this is what I'm working on. It's the Enniskillen, which I've been told is a town in Ireland. And this is a pattern from Courtney Kelly, and I'm using Kelbourne Woolen's Cricket. And I showed Cricket in my video I posted last Wednesday where I talked about cats and whether or not to add cats to the charts that are going on here. And I think, yes, I'm gonna see if I can plug in something, but many of you suggested going at it from a sort of cross stitch angle. And I think that's the best idea. So instead of working the color work directly into the sweater, as I'm doing the rest of the stranded color work, the suggestion was to leave a space, decide where I want the cat or cats to be. And I've decided I'll at least have one cat, and it might be a surprise cat that's along the back or along the back shoulder. And so I'll leave that space open, and then I will come in at the end and either use duplicate stitch or a sort of cross stitch method where I'm more abstractly covering a random assortment of stitches. I'm not duplicating stitch for stitch. So we'll see. I think I will choose the spot, leave it blank, and worst case scenario, as many people said, if I try the cat and it doesn't work, I can take it out. So in this case, the sweater will be finished, and instead of having to reknit, if I don't like the duplicate stitch cat that I put in, I can just go back and use duplicate stitch to match the rest of the chart that exists in the existing design. So thank you for all of the great ideas, the great feedback. I had a couple people send me charts they found, and someone sent me charts that they designed, that they drew up themselves. And I'm gonna ask their permission to share who they are. And if they say yes, I will pop their information up on the screen here. And if not, they know who they are. And thank you so much. I think you are the winner. You are the cat designer that I'm going to choose to implement into this sweater. So I don't have a ton planned to talk about. I'll start by saying with this YouTube channel, a couple thoughts here. When I started making videos a few months ago, my inspiration comes from sort of big YouTubers that I have watched for several years now, people like Sophia Nygaard, Simply Nailogical, people that do a sort of niche video. They're maybe talking about something specific, whether it's nail art or beauty or pop culture, but then they turn into channels where it's an assortment of things. And the videos aren't necessarily podcasts. They are, I don't know, they're like episodes of a TV show. They are videos meant to cover a certain activity or topic. So as I started making videos for this channel, that's what I was doing. One of my first videos that had any sort of traction was a yarn haul, just showcasing a lot of the yarn that I picked up in the month of December. And that had traction. People liked the video. It had some criticism and also nice comments. And after that, people would comment and they say, I love your podcast. And I love that you're doing something different. Your podcast is different from other knitting, crocheting, crafting podcasts. And every time I see those comments, I don't really know what you mean. So if you're someone who said that, or if that makes sense to you, tell me in the comments, what do you mean exactly? I don't know. I don't think of this as a podcast. I think of this as a YouTube channel where I'll have some tutorials, I'll have some hauls, I'll have travel videos, and maybe that does fit the genre of podcast. I don't know. So if you're somebody who watches a lot of fiber-related YouTube channels or podcasts, as we're saying, let me know. What is that format? What does it mean to be a podcast? And for those of you who have said to me, I enjoy your channel, I'm enjoying your content, and I like that your podcasts are different. What is the different part? I'm taking it as a compliment, but I never know what somebody means when they say, oh, I like this. This is different. So that's the first thought on my mind here. I guess I'm just going to use this video to respond to some of the things I've seen in comments. As I've said in the last few videos I've posted, you all have been engaging with me much more than my initial videos I posted, and I love that. That is my number one favorite part of putting any sort of video out on the internet, is the hope that I can foster some sort of community. I can actually make connections, make friends down the road, and I can learn from you. Example one, the cat chart idea, the number of people who directed me towards great books full of charts, designers who have really great color work. It was just a fountain of knowledge and information. And that is the coolest thing. I'm so grateful that for whatever reason, people are finding my videos and then choosing to engage and share their wisdom, their wealth of knowledge with me. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. So that's my favorite part about having a channel, creating this. I got off track there. I talked about podcasts, what makes this different, let me know. I'm using this video as a way to respond to some of the comments and things I've seen, because it's harder now for me to actually keep up with responding to comments. I'm hoping that the mic situation is decent, because I would love to be able to post this video so that I can ask you today's question. And today's question, the query I have is, what is your favorite fiber? What's your favorite yarn, your favorite brand to work with, and why? I've seen a lot of comments from my haul videos or videos where I'm telling a story about shopping for yarn, and people share that maybe they've never heard of a yarn I'm talking about and now they want to try it, or they share their own story about it, or many of you have shared your stories about crazy yarn shop experiences where you mention what you used or you mentioned what you like to use, and people meet it with disdain and a lot of judgment. So as we've established, this is a judgment-free zone, and I want to hear about your favorite fiber. The sweater I'm wearing is my halibut from Caitlin. From Caitlin Jenner, is the halibut sweater from Caitlin Hunter, and I used Scout from Kelborn Woolens. This is the sweater that was in my bag when I was in the yarn store, and the person was like, oh, no, I don't like it. So anyway, I'm also using another Kelborn Woolens yarn with this vest. This vest is made out of cricket, and I'm going to show it to the camera there. I'm enjoying using cricket. However, I'm having some struggles, and I want to elaborate on those struggles. I talked about this last week in the video I posted on Wednesday, my sort of Wednesday unwind, my Wednesday ramble about the cat charts. So I showed, showed these colors up close, and I talked about how this yarn is a sort of fragile yarn, how it's a single ply, it's very thick and thin, it's an irregular fiber, And now that I'm working with it, I knew this going in. I knew that it was not going to look and feel like a machine spun and machine plied wool or acrylic or cotton. I knew I wasn't going to have the evenness, and it is freaking me out. Please, 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 if you're one of those people who comes to the channel to troll me and say, oh my goodness, why is a yarn freaking you out? You're so fragile, etc. I am talking about this on my channel in the scope of this project. I'm not freaked out. I'm not losing sleep over the irregularity of a yarn, but to you, the crafters watching, I'm talking about how using a yarn that is very thick and thin and irregular, very rustic, in other words, is kind of throwing my brain for a loop. When I knit, for the most part, I like to look up. Like I'm looking up now, I'm knitting across my row, and so a lot of what I'm doing is by muscle memory and feel. I'm using my fingers, and if I had my above head camera, I would show you up close. I'm using my fingers to sort of pass each stitch, so I'm guaranteeing, doing a sort of quality control, that I've worked the stitch properly. I didn't slip the stitch and drop it. I didn't work two stitches together. I didn't split the yarn, all of those sort of things we want to check for as we're knitting or crocheting. Speaking of splitting yarn. So that's sort of quality control. When you work a stitch, if you're doing it without looking, every once in a while you glance down, and it might not be for a couple of rows or until daylight if you're working at night or working outside. And then you look at your project and you realize, oh, there's a mistake, and you try to either go in and doctor it, or maybe you rip back and you fix it completely. Or maybe you just leave it because you are fine with it. I don't like to rip back. If I find a mistake after the fact, I like to try to find some sort of solution where I can either go in with a duplicate stitch at the very end, or I can tink back. I can just drop down a single column of stitches and try to fix it. I really don't like to have to pull back a whole row unless it's just a huge problem that's going to affect my pattern. So this topic is my struggle with working with an irregular yarn. I've worked a little bit with hand-spun yarn, and it's the same issue for me, that my brain just doesn't process it the same way. Because there's irregularity, as I work stitch to stitch, I can't feel the stitches the same way because some are thicker, some are thinner. Some have sort of bobbles and tufts of extra fiber. And I don't know, it affects my process of knitting. So all of that to say, using this yarn, Cricket from Kelbourne Woolens, I wanted to use it for several reasons. One, it was featured as a trunk show, a pop-up trunk show of garments from the company at my local shop, Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights. So that's reason one that I'm jumping into this project. It was there, I got to see and feel things in person, and I thought, okay, perfect, here's the pattern I want to do, and I'm going to do it in the same colors that the designer used. Reason two, I already had some Cricket. I already had some of these colors at home wound because I attempted to use it for a previous project. The reason I abandoned it for the previous project is simply that the project I was doing at the time needed yarn with a lot more loft. It needed something that had a lot of air in it and something that would drape more. And this yarn, because it's a single ply and because of the tweed, because of the rustic nature of it, it's not super drapey. It has that slight toothiness and it has that structure, which is why, as I'm working this pattern, I think it's working up really beautifully. You see the color work super evenly, and it holds up on its own. It's not collapsing on itself. It's not draping. So for this, it's perfect. But for the previous project I was working, where I thought, oh, I'll use Cricket, I needed the drape. So I ended up using a merino wool with alpaca, and I ended up holding that with a mohair. So the combination of the alpaca and the added mohair made it a super drapey, super luxurious fiber and fabric. So using this Cricket, makes sense in this situation. I wanted to have the structure. I saw the example of this garment with the exact colors I'm using, and I liked it. So then I knew, yes, I want to commit to it. So those are reasons 1 and 2 I wanted to use Cricut. Reason 3, I like Kelbourne Woolens. They are an American company. They're based out of the Philadelphia area, I'm pretty sure. I like Scout. I like using their DK weight non-superwash for things like this, for things like my field sweater, for things like my Maya cardigan, the colorful sort of rust and navy and cream cardigan that I've worn in several videos. So it's great for color work because it has so much structure. It stands up, it's sticky in that woolly kind of way that the stitches lean on their neighbors, they hold together so that an individual stitch along the color work chart stands up, stands out. It's not collapsing or falling back into the work and disappearing. So I wanted to use Cricut because I like the company it comes from. And if you haven't looked at the range of colors of Cricut, take a second to go look at them. Maybe I'll pop some up on the screen. I think they are exceptionally beautiful colors. I say often when I'm in my local shop in Shaker, I look at the Cricut that they carry and I say, I want a sweater out of nearly every color. I just think they're perfect. They speak to my taste in color and the saturation. I really love them. And I like tweed. I've said a couple times now that I like tweed because it's playful, it's rustic, it looks like you have a normal garment and then you got shoved into the dirt or into the ditch and then you stood back up and now you have bits of twigs and dirt and grass, whatever else, stuck into your sweater. And I love that. I don't want to be pushed down and I don't want you to go push anybody down, but I like tweed. So I'm having fun with this garment. At this point, I've worked my repeating charts, I guess a total of 2 cycles. You can see I have the first chart that's the border and crosses, then we get the green sort of arrows, then the repeat of this with the colors inverted, and now I've just finished my second, more complicated chart of the green. And now that I've done that much of it, that I've spent, I think it's like 3 or 4 days on this project, I'm used to it and I like it. But when I started and I was just doing the ribbing and I had to look at the irregularity of those stitches, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this. And it was the kind of situation where I thought, maybe I'll pull back, maybe I'll use the yarn for something else and I'll reroute my plan. But I think a lot of what we do in crafting when you're making something from scratch is that you have to trust the process. Sometimes you know, sometimes you can tell immediately, like my situation where I tried to use this fiber for the sweater that needed a lot of drape. I could tell on my first day after I had done a few inches that it wasn't going to shape and lay the way I wanted, so I didn't need to do a whole project. But in this case, it was definitely worth working on it for a few days, putting in, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours worth of work on it so that I could see the pattern reveal itself and I could get an idea of what the fiber is going to do once I've created fabric, not just a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch of knitting. So I'm gonna share this project again once I steek it, and once I block it and do all the finishing. So this project will reappear on the channel, and I'm sure I will talk about steeking when it comes time to do that. If you don't know, when we steek, we're working whatever garment we're making, whatever fabric we're creating in the round, we're making a tube, and then we are going to cut it open. And we're either cutting it open so it can become a cardigan, or we're cutting it open so that it can become a heel flap and a sock. Or in this case, I'll cut where the arms are, the armhole openings, and I'll also cut at the top so that I can have a hole for my head. And that's just so that the color work can be done in the round on the right side. I'm not turning my work. I'm not carrying the colors back and forth like in Tarja. I'm doing stranded color work in the round. So steeking is fun. It's a whole process. So I'm sure I will use this garment to showcase some steeking and some tutorials on the channel. And then I'll also find another project that utilizes steeking to show it even more. So back to the question I was asking earlier, the question of the day is, what's your favorite fiber? And maybe on the flip side of that, have you worked with a fiber, or are you working with a fiber now that gives you some sort of pause, that challenges your brain or challenges your hands with whatever you are knitting, crocheting, weaving? So I'd love to hear. And again, this is a no judgment zone. I'm not here to judge your choice of yarn, the cost of it, the fiber content. I want to hear what you like to use. I want to see what you've made. And I want others in the comments to be able to see all of your great recommendations. So let me know in the comments. Think about it while you're watching this video. Maybe you already have an answer, and please let me know. And as I've discussed before, I'm not at the point where I can keep up with every comment that's coming in, which I think is a good problem to have, but I'm reading everything. I'm reading everything you post, and I'm enjoying it. And in my heart and in my mind, I'm giving you a response, even if I'm not able to type it out and hit send. So in the future on the channel, we're gonna have Q&A videos where I'm actually pulling good questions from the comments, or I'm reacting to comments that really stand out to me for whatever reason. So stick around for those, and I'll hopefully be able to address the great things you're sharing with me in the comments. So again, I'm here in Tucson, Arizona, and I've been singing for the week, doing some concerts of Poulenc and Bernstein. Beautiful concerts of Poulenc's Gloria and Bernstein's Chichester Psalms with choir and orchestra. And it's some of my favorite music. So if you're a music lover, if you like choral music, if you like orchestral stuff, if you don't already know those pieces, go listen to them. I'll put them in the description box below. It's Poulenc's Gloria, a work for choir, soprano, and orchestra, and then Bernstein's Chichester Psalms, which is a work for choir, orchestra, and treble soprano, or treble voice, treble solo. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to try to film a sitting and knitting video, and I'm not sure how it'll work out. I'm not sure if this will go up on the channel or not. I hope you can see a little bit of the background. I've got mountains behind me, and I'm sure at the start of this video they were a little bit more visible. And I think before I finish filming for the night, I'll turn the camera the other direction, and maybe you'll be able to see the city lights down into the valley. All right, I'm gonna get to the end of my row, and then I'll sign off for this video. Whenever I knit or crochet, I give myself goals. And I've talked about this a little bit before. My goals don't have to be huge goals, and of course life happens, you get interrupted. If the phone rings, somebody comes to the door, you have to get back to work, you have a child, you have a partner that needs your attention, you can't always just keep crafting. But if it's a situation where you are, speaking of, I have a partner that's coming to the window to wave to me right now, but I'm gonna keep crafting. I'll smile back and keep knitting. I think if you have the time to sit and work on your craft, especially if you're new at it, give yourself goals. Give yourself some sort of expectation that you are going to work maybe one row or one round. Maybe that's taking you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, who knows? So try to get through something. Don't stop partway through if you can help it. If you are really speedy and your rows go by quickly, then give yourself the goal of sitting and doing 10 rows, 20 rows. Sometimes I do it by time. I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna knit for 30 minutes. Otherwise, the projects might sit forever and never get done. Hi.
I'm sorry.
You're fine, I just talked about you. All right, right there, I had a real life interruption. My husband had to come out and tell me that he's heading back out. And so anyway, back to the goals. Give yourself some sort of goal, whether it's the expectation to finish a certain number of rows or to work for a certain amount of time. It could be 10 minutes. I see so many people with very busy schedules who don't have a lot of time to craft and kind of luxuriate, but they will give themselves 10 minutes in the morning. They'll build it in, and they'll get to work early, or they'll sit in the car and they will knit, crochet, they'll craft for 10 minutes. And they say that 10 minutes is the best part of the day, or it can really start the day off right. As always, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope that you were able to sit at home and knit, crochet, weave, do whatever your craft is along with me during this video. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I hope that there's something you'll want to share with me in the comments. And as I mentioned, I really look forward to reading whatever it is you want to share with me. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.